Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video we're going to be talking about Arch Linux. Now in the last couple of videos I've shown you how to install Arch Linux to both a virtual machine and to actual hardware, and what you're seeing here is the base Arch image that I've installed on my actual machine. I installed GNOME. This is using the X11, not the Wayland. I find the screen recorders work better when it's not using Wayland. There's no software installed when I started, but I have installed, you see Chrome I've installed there, and I've installed a few screen sharing tools to see if I can get anything working. Kuha was the best one of the Wayland screen recorders. Blue Recorder just didn't work at all. So this is a review of Arch. Now, what I want to say is Arch is not for everyone, and is certainly not really for the everyday Linux user. If you think my definition of the everyday Linux user is somebody who just wants to use their PC as a PC. They don't have to be particularly technology literate. They want to use Linux, they just want to use the tools, so they want to use a web browser, they want to use the Office suite, maybe listen to some music, watch some videos, maybe play some games. They're not that interested particularly in compiling code. You might be a software developer, but even being a software developer doesn't mean Arch is the right one for you. Now, a lot of times I see on Facebook groups and in forums people say, I've been using Ubuntu, or I've been using Linux Mint for a while now, but I don't think I'm a noob anymore, therefore I'm thinking of installing Arch. What do you think? Now, what I'd like to say to that is, using Ubuntu or Linux Mint does not necessarily make you a noob. Some people will use Ubuntu for decades and they'll be very, very good Linux users. The ability to install Arch doesn't make you an expert Linux user. In most cases, a lot of people that have installed Arch, if I've used the Arch install auto script, or they followed instructions on the Arch install guide, and they probably read a lot of forums and web pages to get them where they are. Now I'm going to tell you now, I didn't install Arch without following the install guide. Because there's no way I'd remember all the commands. Now I could have used the Arch installer for this, but I didn't. I installed it using the manual method. I used two guides really. I used the Arch install guide, and I used the itsFoss install guide for installing Arch. And this is what I'm left with. I'm left with a base GNOME desktop environment. I've got Chrome working, so I'm pretty much started. You can see that because I'm able to record video, that my audio is working fine, but that's all I've got on this machine at this moment. I've got no Office suite, I've got no other tools installed, which is great if you want a blank canvas and you want to start from nothing. There's nothing wrong with that, and if you want to do that, then that's fine. But using Arch does not make you an expert, particularly Linux user. It's a philosophy. When you come to use Arch, the idea is your system is up to date all the time. So you have a responsibility as the user to make sure that your system's up to date and it's going to run the latest packages. And there's a certain amount of effort in doing that. You need to run your updates regularly. On top of that, because everything's up to date all the time, sometimes things break. Because a bad commit here or there can cause something to break. It's your responsibility as the user to be able to understand how to roll back, how to follow instructions, how to get your system to a working state again. Whilst there's support out there for helping you, there is a lot more inclination for people to tell you, have you read this? And that's the way Arch works. If you want the latest software on the latest desktop environment, and you want everything up to date, and you're willing to put the effort in to keep it up to date, and willing to learn, and willing to keep moving forward in terms of your understanding of how the system's built, then Arch may well be for you. For other people, if the other end of the scale is Debian, you can install Debian and you can get a blank canvas. I've showed videos how to get a blank Debian up and running. Your system is stable and it will remain stable for a long time, and your updates will be few and far between, and the chances of a broken package are very slim indeed. The downside of using Debian, of course, is because you're using a stable repository, they're not updated that regularly, which means you're using software that's a fair way behind the latest. Now, for most people, and this goes for Ubuntu and Mint users, because Ubuntu is based on Debian and Mint's based on Ubuntu or Debian, for most people that is fine. You don't necessarily need the very latest software, and very few people actually use the latest features of a software package. But if you do want that, then Arch will always get you to the latest point in time. So whether you are or are not an Arch user has nothing to do with your skill level. What I would say is, if you are a new user though, you will find it trickier to set up Arch than you will other distributions. But it's nothing to do with skill level, it's to do with your ability to follow instructions on a manual and your ability to read and understand those instructions. It's not skill, it's persistence. So when it comes to Arch, I've done the main install, and then so you've got base install, I've got GNOME installed, I've got very little else. So the next thing you want to do is open a terminal. And by default, not all packages are available. So to search for packages, you type pacman -s, a lowercase s, and what you want to install. So say I want to install Steam. You can see I've got SteamOS Compositing Window Manager, I've got Steam Locomotive, neither of which is what you expect it to be. So if you want to install other software, you can use something called Yay, but Yay is not built in by default. This is what I did to install Yay. So I ran this command, sudo pacman -s needed, and then git and base develop, like that, and that will install Git. And then the next command is to go and get the AUR to get the Yay helper, which helps you install software from what's known as the AUR, which is the Arch User Repository, and that has a huge array of software available in it. So basically you type git clone https aur.archlinux.org/yay.git. Once that's cloned, you cd into the folder Yay, and then you have to run make package -si. This builds the package, and then you can run Yay command. So if I run Yay on its own, you can see it's searching the AUR for updates, and it says there's nothing to do. But if I want to search for a package, Yay -s, and say I want to search for Steam, as you can see, if I search Yay for Steam, it doesn't exist there either. But there are a lot more packages in the Arch User Repository than there are just in Pacman itself. So in this case, if I wanted Steam, because I've installed GNOME, it's actually enabled the Flatpaks for me. So I can click here and go to Software, and I can search. So if I go into the repositories here, you see FlatHub is enabled, and I can search for Steam, and I can install that from FlatHub. So using a mixture of Flatpaks, Yay and Pacman, we can install all the software we need. One day I'll remember to put the sudo in front of it. And you can see I can install LibreOffice Fresh, or I can install LibreOffice Still. So you can see out of the box that installing software is a little bit more involved with Arch. I'm using command line tools to install packages using Pacman. I have to install that Yay to get access to the Arch user repositories. You can install from the Arch user repositories without using Yay, but again, it's quite an involved process. So Arch works. It works fine. I've got no issues. Now I do follow Linux Mensch, and during the week he said that he's been using Arch for 2 years, and it finally this week had an issue with it with one of the programs he uses called Rumina. Now that's going to happen in Arch. You're going to use Arch and you're going to have problems along the way. Things that were working yesterday, you run an update, not going to work today. So that's a possibility. Now it's not going to happen all the time, but beware, that's the risk you take when you're using something that's completely up to date all the time. But what you can see is I'm actually using the latest version of GNOME because I've got this thing up here. So I've installed NeoFetch, and you can see when I run NeoFetch it tells you that I'm on Arch Linux, it tells you the kernel I'm using, the latest one, it tells you how many packages are installed, and you can see that I'm on GNOME 45, which is the latest version. Memory usage, I'm using 2 gigs out of the 4 that are available to me. Most of that is GNOME and the fact that I'm recording video. You can see if I run this now, I now have Steam available to me, hopefully. Yes, I do, and you can see I've got LibreOffice, so I can open LibreOffice. And if I look at the about for LibreOffice, you can see the version is 7.6.2.1, which is one of the latest versions you can get, I believe. So the upsides of using Arch, obviously the latest packages. Downsides are they may break because they're the latest packages. So that's what you're getting when you install Arch. My audio is working fine. Let's look at printer setup. You can see when I start the printers, I've got no print service available. So again, we need to go into a terminal. And we'll type sudo apt install. What am I doing? Thinking I'm in Debian still. Sudo pacman -s cups. And we then want to run sudo system control enable cups, sudo system control start cups. So we'll exit out there again. You can see it's got no printers available now as opposed to no service installed. Now I've got a HP printer, so I need to install something called HPLip. So again, I'm going to do sudo pacman -s HPLip. Oh, you can see it's popped up there. I can now click on that, click add, and it says failed to add new printer. So what I've done is I've gone into the cups interface. So I've gone onto web browser localhost admin, and you can see I've got my OfficeJet series there. And you see it says printer added. So now hopefully if I go into printers, you can see I've now got my OfficeJet in there. So let's look at Bluetooth. And you see Bluetooth is actually turned off. So we can turn that on. So to install Bluetooth, I found the Arch, and you're going to find yourself doing this quite a lot, archlinux.org Bluetooth. So we're going to follow along with this. So it says install the Blues package. So Pac-Man -S Blues. One day I'll remember to put sudo first. And then install Blues utils. Just typing install isn't going to work, is it? Sudo Pac-Man -S Blues utils. And then we need to enable the Bluetooth service. So sudo system control enable Bluetooth service. And let's try Bluetooth control. For one RF kill, you can see my devices are unblocked. So as you can see, I've now got it working. The command I missed was to actually start the Bluetooth. So sudo system control start Bluetooth, and if you run sudo system control status Bluetooth, it'll come up with this screen. You can see it's all working properly. If you get any errors in here, it's likely to do with the audio devices, if anything. But that's essentially all you need to do. If you go into the Bluetooth settings, which are up here, you can see the devices are available. So if I turn on a Bluetooth speaker, you can see that appears and it's now connected to it. So, and that is the Bluetooth speaker working. Welcome to Everyday Linux User, and today's video we're going to be reviewing as you can see, that was working. I'll turn off the speaker now. I'll turn off Bluetooth because I don't need it, but that's how you get Bluetooth working. So you see I've got printers working, got Bluetooth working, my Wi-Fi is working, or should be. I'm on a wire connection, but if I click on Wi-Fi, you can see my Wi-Fi networks are available. So in general, hardware is set up. Software, I've now got an Office suite and I've got a web browser. So LibreOffice, as we saw earlier, is there. And essentially I can now, and you can see I've installed VLC media player as well to play videos. I prefer it to the GNOME one. And that's all well and good. We can change our background. We've got the default, we've got the dark. There's other pictures available if we want them. So you can of course add your own ones in. So I can choose any one of these. So there you go. I've got a new background there, one of my own, and that's it for GNOME. Now, as I mentioned before, the memory usage was quite high, so I'd like to install another desktop environment. So to show how low you can make the memory usage, we're going to install two packages. First off, we're going to go into console and we're going to install XFCE and XFCE4 goodies. I'm just going to select the defaults and let that install. It's 120 megabytes. And the other one I'm going to install is IceWM. And the point of this is to show you how light you can make Arch if you want to. So we're now going to reboot our computer. And this is the default layout you get when you first install XFCE with Arch. The first thing you're going to want to do is change that god-awful background. Fortunately, XFCE comes with quite a few nice ones. So you can make it instantly better just by doing that. And you can configure XFCE as you would with any Linux distribution. So you can make it as you want it to. You might want to install the Whisker menu, because obviously you've got the default menu here, which is kind of old school. But the point of this is to see how much memory is being used. So if I open a terminal, I'm instantly more at home with XFCE than I am with GNOME. And if I type NeoFetch, you can see it's now only using 1 GB instead of 2. And here we are in IceWM, and you can see that the memory usage is only 403 megabytes. So that gives me most of my memory back if I want to run applications using IceWM. Now, the window manager and desktop you use is entirely up to you. If you can get used to using window manager, you'll get a lot more back memory wise to do other things with. The halfway house is using something like LXQT or XFCE, but if you want full bloat, then go for GNOME or KDE. And that's it. That's the end of the video. What do I think of Arch Linux? Well, like I said before, Arch isn't for everyone, and I don't think it's for the everyday Linux user. I think if you're the everyday Linux user, you're going to probably find it a little bit easier using something like Endeavour or Manjaro or one of the other Arch-based distros. But if you do want to use the base Arch, you see my install guides. You can see the power that it brings, but buyer beware on this one. You're going to have a lot more maintenance on your hands than you will with a Debian, or far more maintenance on your hands than you are with Ubuntu or Linux Mint based distro. And that's it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.